You're watching Idaho's News Channel 7. This is the news at 10.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight for the news at 10. The November elections officially in the books now.
The polls have been closed for about 2 hours now. Still coming in the results, though. We're still tabulating those here at the station. Of course, they're doing it also at the elections office, the respective elections offices around southern Idaho. We have team coverage tonight. We're looking at Jude Binkley, who is live in Canyon County, keeping tabs on what is happening at that election office. Abby Davis trying to track down Boise mayoral candidate Mike Masterson. Joe Paris joining us in studio here in just a bit to break down the election results as they come in. We're
going to get to all those fabulous reporters here in just a minute, but first, let's send it out live to Andrew Bartline, who is standing by with incumbent Mayor Lauren McLean. Good evening, Andrew.
Yeah, that's right, Morgan, and this watch party is really starting to fill up. If you joined us in our digital show earlier, it was a little thin, but we started to see Nash roll in, we saw Stead roll in, and we saw Morales as well. Well, now Boise Mayor Lauren McLean, has now rolled in, seeking her re-election. If Mayor McLean, you want to come and join us, we'd love to get your thoughts here. She walked in just a moment ago, and that's got to be a good feeling when you walk into an event, your name's all over the walls. There was an applause for you as you walked in here today.
I would say for me and a whole bunch of council members that are here too. Yeah, it was great to join everybody down here as we wait for results.
And of course, you're seeking your re-election right now. The numbers are preliminary. That's kind of the name of the game right now. But your feeling so far, you do seem to have quite a bit of a margin over Mike Masterson right now.
Yeah, we're feeling good. You know, I knew going into this race that this race was going to be about Boise values and a vision for the future. And I'm pleased to see that both in council races right now and in the early results across the city, Boiseans agree. Like, this is a safe and welcoming city for everyone. We're going to keep it that way. We're going to keep working hard. I'm optimistic.
And that really has been sort of a tagline throughout your administration, of course, in your campaign seeking your re-election. A city for everyone. What does that look like exactly? Because it's a good tagline, but ideally, what does that specifically mean?
A city for everyone that's safe and welcoming for everyone is affordable. So we work on homes of affordable Boise budgets. It's safe. It has great access to parks and open space, and it's resilient and prepared for the future. And most importantly, it's a city, we are a city that takes care of each other. Boiseans have always been about rolling up their sleeves, addressing challenges head on, working really hard, and being optimistic about the future.
And between these preliminary numbers that do show that you have a margin right now, all the other council member candidates that are here as well, they also have healthy margins. What does that tell you, even though the numbers are early? It seems the common denominator is the people that are connected, that are linked here today, they seem to have early success. What does that say?
Yeah, and we've got Councilmember Meredith Stead here and Councilmember Colin Nash, who ran on a platform of taking care of our community and making sure that our neighborhoods are close-knit, that as we grow, we stay true to who we are, and we make sure we've got homes that are affordable and parks kids can access safely, and they're doing well tonight. Jordan Morales is as well. This tells me that Boiseans know that hardworking candidates are hardworking leaders, and together we'll keep this place safe and welcoming for everyone.
Well, Mayor McLean, thank you for giving us your time. The polls closed about 2 hours ago. Yes, yeah. Enjoy your night. Thank you for spending it with us. But again, those polls closed about 2 hours ago. Jude Binkley has been out in Canyon County sifting through maybe what he's seen over in the 2C, as I know you like to call it. Jude, tell me what's going on.
Hey, Andrew, as you said, we've been cruising through the 2C all day following the elections here, and even though polls have been closed for about 2 hours, as you can see behind me, it's a full-on operation here at the Canyon County election headquarters, and we'll talk you through that process here in just a minute. But first, I want to bring in Canyon County spokesperson Joe Decker. And Joe, first off, I want to talk about turnouts today. So what did numbers look like, and kind of what were the busier areas here in Canyon County?
Yeah, so overall we had 18.6% turnout, a little over 18,500 votes. In today's election, about 12,500 of those were election day votes. In terms of busiest polling locations, by far our three busiest were all in Middleton. So yeah, Middleton takes the cake in terms of turnout.
And a couple of big races that voters in Middleton are deciding on. There's the Middleton Liquor by the Drink on whether or not bars and restaurants will be able to serve liquor. There's also a mayoral race in Middleton as well as a school levy. I believe you can see some of that footage now of some of the polling locations out in Middleton. And Joe, you know, we're at the election headquarters right now. There's been a lot of work going on behind us for the last 2 hours since polls closed. Kind of what's going on and what does the vote counting process look like?
So what you're seeing behind us is they're breaking down all the poll pads, which is the equipment we use to check people in, make sure they're registered, make sure they're in the right polling location. So they're breaking those down and making sure they're synced with the system so we can check the number of check-ins versus the number of votes cast on the I'm trying to think what the machines are called, but yeah, basically the scanners. Yeah, so we take these and then we check them against the number of votes cast by the scanners. So yeah, I mean, that's what's going on right here behind us.
All right, and we gave you a pretty in-depth look of that in our web show as well, but as we continue to get updates, we'll bring you those online at KTVB.com. Brian Morgan, we'll go ahead and send it back to you, but again, we'll be on top of election coverage online and here on the news, as we get more updates. Back to you.
Some big issues people are really curious about there, the Caldwell fire bond, the Middleton mayoral race, as well as the liquor vote that's going up for people. So Jude, I heard Joe mention the turnout percentage, but I don't recall exactly what it was. I know early on he said he estimated between 23 and 27%. What are they saying right now?
So turnout was about 18%, right?
Yeah, 18.6%.
And how does that compare to a normal local race?
It's about what we see, anywhere from 18 to 25% in these local races. I think the fact that for the first time ever, the city of Nampa had to vote by district. So unless you lived in the district that your city council member was in, then you couldn't vote in it. So in the past, it was voted on at large by all the people in the city. So that probably dropped down turnout in the city of Nampa. But I think Middleton's turnout was really high compared to what we would normally see.
Absolutely. And Morgan, one last thing I wanted to note is that this year Canyon County added about 10 polling locations, and as we're showing you updates throughout the news at 4, news at 6, we really didn't see any long lines. I wouldn't say we saw a wait over 5 minutes, so I think that really helped, and hopefully we'll continue to see that as we look into elections in the future. But yeah, no issues with lines here in Canyon County. Send it back to you.
Positive news there. All right, Jude Binkley reporting live for us in Canyon County.
Middleton school levy also up for grabs today. 57% right now, looking at
and Nampa.
And Nampa as well. So that's a big issue out there in Canyon County.
We are going to send it out live now to our Abby Davis, who is standing by with retired Boise Police Chief Mike Masterson. Abby, how is he feeling tonight?
Well, we're going to hear from him in just a few seconds. We're at Masterson's campaign party right now in the north end of Boise. Let's get over right here to Mike Masterson. Thank you so much for talking with us really quickly. You've been trailing McLean so far, but how are you feeling right now?
We're still feeling good. As you can see, the crowd's still here. It's optimistic. It's still early in the reporting. We need to make up some numbers, but we're hopeful they'll come in the next few batches.
I want to touch a little bit about on your platform. You approach this through a big lens of public safety. You were very critical of McLean and her hiring and then the subsequent investigations into former police chief Ryan Lee. So again, a big emphasis on public safety throughout your campaign. How do you think that was received through people living in Boise? We got some cheering here.
I think a lot of people understand what they're seeing out here. It's not just about hard numbers, it's about perceptions. And so I think that they see the graffiti in the city, they see shootings downtown, and there should be a cause for concern. There should be something that is undertaken by the mayor's office to take a look at putting together a working group that nips those things in the bud rather than lets them continue.
Well, obviously, you have a big group of supportive people here. You could just hear from all of that chanting. Again, still very early in the night. A lot of votes still need to be counted. How long will you guys plan on staying here, and what does the rest of the night look like?
You know what? We'll probably stay here till 11:30. We're not sure when the results are going to be finalized, but that's going to be late enough for this guy to go home and get a good night's sleep.
Of course. All right. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate you talking to us. So this was just a little glimpse into the Masterson campaign party. We'll send it back to you guys at the desk.
Yeah, Mr. Masterson running a lot on public safety as his big priority in the city of Boise. 46% of precincts reported right now for that Boise mayoral race.
So you got the big picture there, the numbers coming in at around 62% for incumbent Mayor Lauren McLean. We're going to get over to Joe, or 57%, excuse me, for Lauren McLean, 42% for Mike Masterson. But we're going to go over to Joe over there at the touchscreen right now. Kind of get, that's the big picture. What about some of the finite numbers that we're seeing in these election results?
It's interesting. We were tracking this during our web show. As we take a closer look at the map of the municipality of the city of Boise, you'll see two colors. You'll see green and you'll see a yellow shade. Mike Masterson is here in the green, and it's interesting that we're seeing very specific pockets of the area in South Boise and over in West Boise that are so far supporting Masterson. Again, the numbers you see here on this chart here, they're the same that we just showed you on the full screen. Lauren McLean at about 60% if we're rounding up, Mike Masterson about 42%. So in terms of a runoff, we were talking about a situation where you would need to have, probably a third-party candidate take a significant amount of the votes, like we saw Rebecca Arnold do in 2019. So far in the city of Boise, we see these other two candidates, Joe Evans and Aaron Reese, at 1% total. So we'll check in with Eagle later on in our program, but I just want to say that in terms of those tracking a potential runoff in Boise, doesn't look like we're going to have that situation right now. Again, less than half the votes have been tallied and put into our system, but you can see there's a clear divide in the community. Again, I'll circle it. Green here, yellow there. A mess of a map I just made. But as we toss it back over, though, to the desk, I know that we have a very special guest that's joining us, the Secretary of State, Phil McGrain. And I'm curious, this is your first election night as the Secretary of State. How different does it feel?
This is the biggest election that we've overseen. We've had a couple smaller elections so far. It is very different. Being at the ground level at the county, I know Trent and the team at Ada County Elections are working really hard to try and update your maps, as you were just highlighting, and get everything in there. We've been troubleshooting some little issues that have happened through the day, but I'm happy to say it's been a smooth election day, which is what we all want.
One thing we reported on earlier was some absentee ballot issues. What have you heard from folks about that?
So that's specific to Ada County, so we talked with them. They had 753 absentee ballots that didn't make it to the voters in time. The issues, unfortunately, really were with the Postal Service. So we're trying to troubleshoot and see. Unfortunately, this is a national issue. When we meet with other secretaries, this issue has come up. Idaho actually changed its deadline to request an absentee just a few years ago because we were seeing extended delays. And so, unfortunately, that's the same topic coming up again.
Again, so depending on where the races are, hotly contested races are going to bring out more people. Are you surprised by any of the turnout numbers you've seen so far?
You know, it's interesting. This election really is local, and you're really highlighting it, and you see that in the results. We had Camas County with a whopping 32 voters today. So that's one indication of things, but you also have, you guys have been highlighting the Boise mayor's race. We knew that would bring in some more attention. The real focus and one of the races we're watching is the Eagle mayor's race. Eagle had some of the highest turnout. I know, so it's not shown in the results yet, but Ada County overall had 35% turnout today. We know that just from people who checked in terms of on election day, but Eagle had higher than that, so it just showed a lot of interest, and it's one of those up for potential runoff.
I got a quick question for you. We're seeing these numbers come in from Eagle. 5% reporting it, Boise's reporting at 46%. Why the difference?
It's really interesting as you look at the maps that Joe's been highlighting. If you think of where the Ada County Elections Office is, it's a 14-hour day for those poll workers.
Is it really about drive time?
It really is about the poll workers loading up all the materials and driving in. So you'll actually see the STAR results and the CUNA results being some of the slowest ones to come in.
Okay.
Because both they have to drive to get there, but also once they get to the Ada County Elections Office, they're in a queue to drop off those materials, those ballots, and everything else.
Real quickly, I'm told that we do have to go to break here in a minute. I wanted to ask you, a year from tonight about, you're going to have a major election, and we know that a lot of the election offices, like in Canyon County and Ada County, they're working on election security and improving voter transparency. When you think ahead a year from tonight, is this kind of a dry run for a pretty heavily politicized cycle?
Absolutely. Next year is going to be a huge year. After the 2020 election, 2024, we've already begun planning for it, and we have things in the queue. We're actually testing some things tonight internally just to get ready for the next cycle. So hopefully we'll have updates to voteidaho.gov, some more transparency tools that you'll be able to highlight to viewers in the future. So we're working on that to gear up and give people confidence in the next coming cycle.
Phil McGrain, what an honor to have you on set with us tonight. I know you are an extremely busy man today in particular, so we appreciate your time.
For sure.
We are going to send it now to a break. When we come back, we're going to have more coverage of tonight's election results from all over Southwest and Central Idaho and more expert analysis as well.
All right, welcome back to our election coverage of Decision 2023. Joining us now is Dr. Stephanie Witt from Boise State. And I guess I'll start with a broad question. What has stood out to you tonight when you see these results coming in around the southern part of the state?
Well, first of all, it looks like turnout's going really well.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of people showing in. I know Secretary of State was just here talking about that. That's great. The mayor of Boise, the incumbent mayor, jumped out to a big lead.
Right.
Now, the question is going to be, is that going to hold as the rest of the precincts from all over the city come in? So that's interesting to me. Of course, the magic rule here is you have to get 50% plus one for the mayor's race. So we'll see if they manage to do that, either one of them, or if we go to a runoff.
Mayor McLean's been hovering around that 60% mark for
Yes.
most of the evening tonight, so it's not really changed much. Still, again, only needs 50 plus one
Right.
to retain her spot as the Boise mayor.
And on everyone's ballot in Ada County is the jail bond. And some people, even that live in unincorporated and didn't have mayoral races or city council races on their ballot, they absolutely had that jail bond. I know that brings people out. People are very concerned about their taxes, right? And this would add some money onto people's taxes. Let's see how that's looking. 67% voting in favor, with 39% of precincts reporting, 33% voting against that jail bond right now. So we'll see how that shakes out too.
And that's a thin margin, Dr. Witt, because that's 67%. It needs to hold.
That's right.
It does, yeah.
You can't have very many more no votes in terms of a percentage, or it fails.
Because that is a very different bar than the mayoral race.
Yeah, tonight's a little confusing. There are, I think, 3 different decision rules happening, right? Some of the mayor's races have to be 50% plus one. The bond has to have 66 2/3% approval. There are some supplemental levies in some of our school districts that are simple majority of 50% plus one. And the city council races are just plurality, like who has one more vote than anyone else.
Wow, yeah, it's true. It's like 4 different measurements there.
I can't count.
Yeah,
Well,
we've got numbers.
Let's talk about the city council races because we talked about this on the digital show for the first time. We are dealing with cities with over 100,000 people having different districts for city council races. We're seeing that shake out in Boise as well as Meridian. What's your take on those changes, Dr. Witt?
Well, this will change the way the city of Boise does its business, right? Instead of everyone running at large and we all vote on them, now, of course, you're running in districts, which will change the dynamics a little bit of who wins and how much money you have to spend and all that. It will probably answer the criticism of having too many council members from one neighborhood or one part of the city. I don't know how many people are going to show up to vote in districts 1 and 6 where there's no city council person on the ballot because somebody ran unopposed, right? So I'm curious to see how turnout works out. And of course, the city council members don't have to have the numeric majority.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
We're seeing some of these council races results coming through, and looking at Nampa City Council right now, 56% for Natalie Jungula. And you can see seat 4 also kind of a wide margin there at 63% for Dale Reynolds. Joe, you're kind of keeping tabs right now what's going on in Boise City Council and specifically District 2.
Yeah, it's interesting as you go through some of these races, it shows that how hyper-local they are. For example, District 2, as we've been talking about tonight, Colin Nash, you're going to see a lot of the yellow. That's a lot of him in the area. But interesting enough, you'll see one area of green, and that is for Jesse Gonzalez. Jesse Gonzalez right now sits at the bottom here. It's actually interesting as I pulled this up. Maybe it looks like there could be an error on the page. So I'm gonna continue on from what I was going to say because it looks like we had a little bit of an error. I was going to say it was interesting that there was one very specific swath for Jesse Gonzalez, but we will leave that to be for right now. But as you look through these races, you're definitely going to see some of the areas have contests where it's very clear where the candidate's from. It's very clear what neighborhood they live in because you are going to have these really intense pockets. So as we follow the election results into the night, as we look into it tomorrow, I'll be interested to see how some of these district races really shape up. Again, if you take a look at the Boise mayoral race, again, it's so interesting to me to see these more pockets of green for Masterson. And again, they're in very specific areas. And if you've been with us over the last, 3 hours, the green has really been growing from the south and the west side of the municipality of Boise. It will be very interesting to see in the coming days exactly maybe why that was. And, sometimes there's not a great reason, but I'd be interested to see what this one is.
Well, and this is very different than we talked about the previous election between Ms. McLean and former Mayor Dave Beater, because they had a third candidate that got a lot of votes, and that's why it went to that runoff. We likely won't see that tonight.
Well, I'm not sure, but it looks like we may not need the runoff.
Yeah. Versus Eagle, which, because there's so many candidates getting
correct. Yeah.
More
there
votes.
You have at least 3 or maybe 4 viable candidates. So, much less likely that someone's going to win a majority.
3 of them sitting around 30% right now in Eagle. And then Meridian Mayor Simonson is up 73% to 27% over Mike Hahn.
We are going to go right to Mayor Lauren McLean, who has taken the podium at her watch party.
I am really excited to see the results that we've seen so far in our city council races. People that have worked so hard. Meredith Stead, Colin Nash, up on Council President, I can't see anybody. Council President Jimmy Halliburton here somewhere have worked so hard for Boise, and I so appreciate their partnership. Let's give them a round of applause. We've still got results that we're waiting to come in, but I got to tell you, I'm optimistic. And I'm optimistic because at the outset of this campaign, we said that this campaign was about Boise values. As Alana said, we are a city that takes care of each other. Yes, we do. We are a city that makes sure that we've got homes for folks that they can afford, that we do what we can do to take care of our kids during the day, that we make certain and clear to every person that's wondering that, yes, this is a safe and welcoming city for everyone, and everyone means everyone. And in the last 7 months, I have knocked thousands of doors, and I have heard moms telling me their kids have left because they don't know if they have a place here. Working people saying they're really worried that they're going to move out, they're going to have to move out of their home, and wondering if they have a place here. And to each and every one of them, I say, yes, you do. Boise's your home. We want this place to be your home. You are safe, you are welcomed, and you are valued. And that's what this...
You're listening to Boise Mayor Lauren McLean kind of give a speech, a wrapping up of the evening a little bit, not really saying that she's taking that seat back yet, kind of waiting on that for the numbers to come in.
About half the votes to come in still.
Half the votes to come in. So she's a little cautious in that regard, but letting everybody know that there was a lot of work that went into this so far, and she's very optimistic about the results so far. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more of your election coverage in the news at 10 right after this.
Welcome back. Election night. Polls closed 2.5 hours ago. Results are still trickling in. We want to get to a really big race. Secretary of State Phil McGrain, Joe, talked about this one earlier. It is neck and neck. Eagle Mayor Jason Pierce, the incumbent, leading with just a few votes. 23 votes. It has. It's increased with 30% of precincts reporting. Brad Pike, the council president, 33% as well. Stan Ridgway, 27%. Joe, talk about what happens if the results hold steady like this?
Well, if this happens, it looks like we would go to a runoff. So again, for somebody to win the race tonight or tomorrow, depending on when the votes get counted, you need 50% of the vote plus 1. And with a competitive three-way race like we're seeing between Ridgway, Pike, and Pierce, the math on that is very difficult. So hypothetically, let's just say for simplistic sense, this result holds, it would be the top 2 that go to a runoff on December the 5th. So between right now, Pike and Ridgway, that'll be a very interesting race to watch in the sense that they're going to be battling to see who makes the final ballot. Again, the incumbent Jason Pierce on the initial return, which would have been the early vote and the absentee, he was sitting in third behind Ridgway and Pike. Now, we've seen that flip over the last half hour now that we're getting some more votes in, again, 30% in right now. So if this holds, and it looks like it could, we'll have a runoff election on December 5th between the top 2. It'd be very interesting to see a reset on the Eagle mayoral race with 2 clear candidates instead of a field of 4.
And Stan Ridgway had held that position prior. There have been a lot of issues that people in Eagle have been dealing with, from the Avamore annexation to little things like, the senior center and the trash services, but as well as the shooting range. So that brought a lot of people out to vote, some folks that might not have been happy with the direction that Eagle was heading. We're going to get out to another fast-growing city in Ada County, Star. Brian, what are we seeing?
We're looking at 57% reporting right now, and incumbent Mayor Trevor Chadwick up 86%, so well out in front of the challenger Michelle Miles. 1,600 votes, the difference there, and that looks like 57%. That looks like it's going to hold pretty true.
And I wonder if we have results for Middleton accumulating at this point as well. Middleton had a lot of races going on. Council, the mayoral race.
Liquor,
and school levy.
Yep, school levy. And we're looking at Middleton Mayor right now, Jackie Hutchinson, beating the incumbent Steve Rule at 68 to 25%. Again, this number, though, Just 1%.
Okay.
Just 1% reporting out of Middleton, all this being tabulated at the Canyon County Elections Office.
Yeah, Canyon County not as quick to give results as the Ada County elections offices are. We are going to take a quick break again. We will have more of your news and election results after this. The Boise State men's basketball team was back in action tonight. The Broncos played their season opener against Vanguard. The boys came away with a big win tonight. Final score, Boise State 89 and Vanguard 55.
So a good start and a nice warm-up for the season for the Broncos. Not only tonight, the first game of the season, but also the first game that aired on KTVB since 2014. Proud to bring that to you. The first of 10 games that we are carrying on 7.2 and all KTVB's digital platforms. We'll be right back. Keep up with all your election results at KTVB.com, or you can text results to 208-321-5614. We'll see you tomorrow.